Today I'm coming to you from Chicago, Illinois, where I am visiting my brother and my son for his first parents' weekend of college. So far, I have yet to run into any war zones or riots or anything that would require the use of federal troops. But I am, as always, inspired to defiance by a number of today's news items. First up is Donald Trump asking for $230 million in repayment for all of the investigations that have been levied against him by the Department of Justice. The fact that he is asking for reimbursement for investigations that were well-founded and found evidence of wrongdoing on his part is laughable. And yet the idea of using the federal government and agencies as his own personal piggy bank is really disgusting. Just because he makes hats that say Trump has done nothing wrong does not actually make it so. And the idea that taxpayers should be on the hook for his own grievance is something that should never be allowed. It isn't just fiscally irresponsible. It is immoral. It is immoral to apologize for the truth and to canonize the falsehood. We should not have to apologize for investigating election interference or improper use of confidential materials. This is the furthest form of weaponizing the Department of Justice, of weaponizing the government so that it only serves one person. And while I know that President Trump has been enriched by his second term in office, I don't want that enrichment to come directly from the coffers of the United States government. I don't want taxpayers to have to foot the bill for his grievance, for his complaints. I'm also inspired today by the fact that an ICE officer has shot a motorist and U.S. Marshal in Los Angeles. This political violence is happening because federal officers have been given the authority to do pretty much whatever they want. And while it may sound like an isolated incident, I don't think that it's going to be the last of its kind. And it makes me wonder, what is the state's responsibility to push back on these ICE officers? I like seeing some of the legislation that's coming out about ICE officers having to reveal their faces and not wear masks. But if they can shoot and potentially kill anyone that they deem as the enemy, then we don't really have control of our own streets, of our own localities. I see all of us as needed for committing to de-escalation, for committing to peace amongst the people. We saw that with the No Kings rallies where there wasn't any violence, but we can't expect that from all of the federal agencies that have been deputized to do this kind of work. We are looking for solutions that do not require more harm, more fear, or more control. We are looking for solutions that allow for both safety and freedom. And lastly today, I'm actually inspired by the fact that the Trump and Putin meeting that was going to negotiate essentially the peace and the borders for both Ukraine and Russia is not going to happen now. At least not until Trump meets with the NATO Secretary General in order to have a broader discussion of the war. NATO was built on the promise of collective defense, on member states protecting one another. And it has meant for the world a relative period of safety, where borders are respected. And while I would never trust an agreement that was made between Putin and Trump to secure the safety of either country, I do believe that NATO and large-scale coalitions can have a great impact on the future of Ukraine as a country itself. But the recent suggestion from Donald Trump that Ukraine and Russia just give up on their borders and stop right where they are in the midst of the conflict and establish peace, that's a non-starter for me. It tries to explain away the fact that Russia attacked Ukraine and stole huge amounts of land from a sovereign country. It also disrespects all of the people who have died in this conflict. It seems to me that there is no coherent message coming from the Trump administration on this conflict. Whoever he has spoken to last, especially if it is Putin, gets the benefit of the doubt. And the shockingly bad press conference with Zelensky in the room shows just how much Trump and his administration are willing to bend the knee to Russia. We have got to push back on the idea that anyone who just wants to bully another country, who wants to attack because they have so many resources, we have to push back on the idea that that should be allowed. And the way to do that is through coalition building. It's not through unitary action. NATO has existed for decades to do this kind of work, to establish and continue peace. They have not always been successful, and there have been wars throughout its existence. But our best bet is not to try and go toe-to-toe with Russia. It's not to offer and then take away the promise of money or munitions for Ukraine. It is to continue our support for a rule-based order around the world. It is to stand by our own words and the words of our allies. And it is to know who our allies actually are. Putin and Russia are not our allies. No one who commits war crimes should be our ally. We are too smart and have too much history at our disposal to trust these bullies or to allow them to continue to control the world stage.